Welcome back to another episode of Parks Made Possible. I'm Nick.
I'm Kate.
And we're here to make your national parks trip possible. If you missed our first couple episodes, what we do is aim to bring you great insights and recommendations on having a wonderful experience when you visit America's national parks. So please like, comment, but most of all, please subscribe so you can stay in touch with us as we keep bringing you more helpful information about the parks.
On today's episode, we are focusing on one specific park, and it is our absolute favorite park, Glacier. We've got our t-shirts and hats on today to sport our love for this park. We're total tourists, if you will. But this is a park that we get a ton of requests for to help plan, to help make trips more efficient. A lot of people want to go to Glacier for very obvious reasons. It's one of the most beautiful natural scenes in the United States, I would say. So we're focusing on specific park podcasts to bring information about the popular parks that we get a lot of requests for. And if there's one that you're particularly interested in, please let us know in the comments, and hopefully we can bring that episode to you soon.
Yeah, but before we get into Glacier, one small note about our small business, Trip Possible. We sell guidebooks to many of America's national parks, and our newest guidebook is for Glacier. It's on sale now in our online shop at www.mytrippossible.com/shop. And it is excellent. These guidebooks are very nice, very handy resources for you when you start thinking about how to plan a trip to a park. Or you could even purchase one, print it out, and just bring it with you on your trip. In addition to that, we can also provide comprehensive travel planning for a trip to Glacier National Park. We've done a lot of that. So, but if you're looking for something more affordable, our guidebooks are reasonably priced and they are excellent. So head to the shop and get those today. Yeah. All right, you want to jump into Glacier?
With that, let's get started. All right, Nick, tell us, where is Glacier National Park?
Glacier is in northwest Montana, a massive state. But it is on the border between the U.S. and Canada, and it's in between the town of Kalispell and the Blackfeet Indian Reservation right there. And it's actually in a very, very thin sliver of the Rocky Mountains. The thinnest portion of the Rocky Mountain range is where Glacier is located. So the closest big city would probably be Missoula, if we're calling Missoula big. It's 3 hours south of Glacier National Park. So yeah, it's a pretty big park. 1,583 square miles, or about 1 million acres. So we like to compare it to Yellowstone because that's one of the largest. This is about a little less than half as large as Yellowstone. Still one of the larger parks in America, though. And in 2024, this is interesting. It is a popular park, but last year it was only the 10th most visited national park. With 3.2 million visitors, because it's hard to get to, as we remember.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, you want to give us the layout of the park?
Yeah, so there's a couple different areas of Glacier which are laid out very nicely in our guidebooks and in a map. But on the east side, we have Many Glacier. The southeast side, there is Two Medicine. West Glacier is where the main entrance is, and then the North Fork Wilderness area, it's much more remote. That is, I'm assuming, in the north?
Yeah, northwest. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're good. Mm-hmm.
All right.
But a better high quality map of this is in our guidebook, so check that out. But those are the 4 entrances to the park. Yep.
All righty.
Yeah. It was established in 1910. This park was established as the 10th national park in the United States. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And it's again, probably our favorite. It didn't take us long when we got there to classify this as our favorite park. Why? Why is Glacier, in our opinion, the best national park in America?
Yeah, I think when you think of a national park and like what national parks stand for, like views, wildlife, scenery, mountains, all the things that like you can kind of picture in your head, this place has it all. It is one of the most beautiful places it's the most beautiful place I think I've ever been. So the scenery, epic scenery, mountain views, tons of water features, glaciers that are like up in the mountains that are melting, create waterfalls, tons of colors, like the different,
so many colors. Yes.
the colors of the water, I think were the most stunning lakes that I've ever seen. They're kind of like a turquoise blue color. And depending on where they are located, like the ones that were higher up, I felt like were even more blue,
Yeah.
like turquoisey blue. But yeah, we'll go into details on why that is.
Yeah. I think that for me, it's special because of the incredibly beautiful scenery. The landscape there looks so different than other parts of America. Like it is still the Rocky Mountains, but it's like a completely different mountain range than the Rockies that you see in Colorado or further north or further south. It's just different. And I think it's because of what the glaciers did to this portion of the mountain range. And that's also why the lakes have their crazy turquoise color. Without glaciers, the color of that water is different. It's not that bright turquoise blue. Because what the glaciers have done, and the higher up in the mountains, the more vivid the blue color of the water, glacial melt creates this thing called glacial flour, FLOUR, like cooking flour. Glacial flour, which is like finely ground down rock. So all the minerals in that glacial flour flows out of the glacier as it melts. All the rock it ground up flows into these lakes and just gets suspended there. It sits in the water there and reflects off different wavelengths of light until you are left with the one that catches the human eye, which is that super vivid turquoise blue. So
I love it.
That's probably why the ones at higher elevation look even more vivid, because there's more glaciers higher up in the mountains.
Yeah.
So
I know this also happens in Banff too. I've seen my sister's honeymoon pictures were from there and very similar.
Yeah, exactly. Same principles at work. Yeah. But the glaciation in this park is really, really spectacular. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But we're going to get into one of the highlights. It's a scenic drive called Going to the Sun Road. But that is an iconic drive, and you get to see these rugged peaks, and you can see where the glaciers have kind of carved away, and there's these U-shaped valleys that are created, and it's stunning.
Yeah, probably the most scenic drive we've ever done. Going to the Sun Road. I mean, it's a feat of engineering. It's masterfully done as it just blends right into the landscape. But it's just it's something that if you get a chance to drive on that road, it's kind of a bucket list item. It's something that you'll never get to do anywhere else, truly. So I think that it's hard to just talk about one thing about Glacier that's spectacular because there's so many things.
Yes.
But the biodiversity is another thing we wanted to mention that is really neat. Like as you mentioned at the jump, there's so many things that make this park special. It is iconic in every way. When you think about a national park, the biodiversity is one of those things. The number of different animal species that live here, like big ones too. I mean, there's moose, there's mountain goats, we saw a bighorn sheep on one of our hikes.
Yep. And grizzly bears, obviously, this is grizzly bear country. So definitely going to need some bear spray on a lot of the hikes if you're going out into the wilderness areas at all.
Yes. Yeah. And those are spectacular. The plants. What's our favorite plant in Glacier?
The huckleberry plant.
The huckleberries.
Huckleberries.
The wild huckleberries are delicious. They put them in everything out there too.
Oh my gosh.
In all the little gift shops. I mean, there's huckleberry chocolate, huckleberry beer,
soda, like candy, taffy, everything is huckleberry. And there's pies too, like pie. It's good.
Yeah.
Definitely try the huckleberries.
Yes, they are actually, they're truly delicious. I love the flavor of them. Yeah. But beyond that, I mean, the difference in plant life throughout this park is so diverse. On the western side of the park, which is a little more lush, gets a little bit more rainfall. You have like ancient old growth forest full of this western hemlock and western red cedar. And then on the ground level, there's massive ferns. There's lots of mosses. So it feels very like primeval, you know? So the hiking trails in that area of the park are very different from what you might get on the eastern side, which has more of a rain shadow effect, where not arid like a desert, but just that same sort of plant life didn't make its way over because it requires a different environment to grow in. So you have some different coniferous plants that are over there in the slightly drier environment. That diversity is the reflection of a healthy ecosystem. And that is what Glacier is, like top to bottom. It just seems like an intact, healthy place for plants and animals to thrive. So that's what, I don't know. And then you mentioned the waters. The water features here.
Yes.
Excellent. I mean, there's so many waterfalls because there's always so much snow. I mean, they average something like 16 feet of snowpack every year. All that has to melt in a really short summer season.
Yeah.
So think about all the waterfalls that you see, in these mountain bowls that pour themselves into lakes. And so,
yeah. So I guess we can touch on peak season here.
Yeah.
So as Nick mentioned, the peak season is a little shorter because you're up in the mountains and the snow doesn't melt until probably like mid-June sometimes.
Yeah.
Maybe July even. They have a chart somewhere on the National Park Service site about when Going to the Sun Road actually opens every year.
Yes.
And it's gone into July some years.
Yeah.
So June, July.
Regularly.
It all just depends on when they can get those roads cleared, when the snow's actually melted, and it's safe, obviously, to drive because
Right.
you're going along cliff sides and there's kind of drop-offs on the other side. So
Totally.
It's a little precarious.
Yeah, Going to the Sun Road is one of those things where it's like, okay, hey, once it stops snowing, the park can open. It's like, no, that's not how it works. That park is still under snow, and when you get that much frozen precipitation, it takes months for crews to clear a road that is that precarious. Because once they get the road clear, it's not over. They need to plow the pullouts. They need to repair potholes. They need to plow parking lots. And only once that's done can you access the visitor center, which might need a little bit of maintenance of its own. So it's quite a process. And that's why the peak season is pretty much July, August, and September. July and August primarily are very, very busy months.
Very short,
Yeah.
but very busy.
It's worth it though.
Yes.
As we would agree. So I think it's cool to mention though that like if you don't need to see the whole park, we would totally advise you to go when you can drive Going to the Sun Road. But you can go a little bit earlier in the spring, in the months of May and early June, if you're not too concerned about needing to drive all the way through on Going to the Sun Road, because the lower elevations, those are ready to explore by mid-May. For sure. It stopped snowing, it's melted off, and they're lovely places to hike and recreate. So
Yeah. So to that point, let's maybe talk about some of the activities or things to do in Glacier.
Yeah.
Obviously, hiking is one of those things, which we did a lot of when we were there. There is, I would say, world-class hiking trails here.
the best, like the best in America, I think.
Yeah. Tell us why. Tell us why these are such epic places to hike.
I think that because of the biodiversity, we mentioned it earlier, that is why hiking trails here are so spectacular. Because a lot of the time in different parks, you get a trail where you read the description, you do the trail, and it matches the description. It's like, okay, yep, that was pretty cool. We got to see a neat waterfall, neat overlook, but for the most part, the trail is self-explanatory. When you get to Glacier and you start hiking those trails, all of the different factors of the environment play together in creating a unique experience for that hike that you do. So it's the plants, it's the animals you may see. There's so many of both that can combine to create a neat experience. You pass through different environments on the same trail. I'm thinking about Avalanche Lake. When we walked Trail of the Cedars and took it up to Avalanche Lake, all the different little microclimates that we passed through, it felt like, just to get up to that incredible lake. It's the biodiversity, and it's the colors, it's the wildflowers that exist. This park has everything, and in order to experience the full array of what it has to offer, I think that's when you need to hit the trail. So yeah, hopefully you're able to do it, and because that's the best way to experience this park is the hiking trails.
Yeah, two of our favorites in Glacier. You mentioned Avalanche Lake already. You basically hike up to Avalanche Lake, and like the backdrop is this beautiful like mountainscape. There's probably like 5 different waterfalls coming down from the glacial melt that's up in the mountains, and it's like reflecting off the lake. So the view is like beautiful. And then I think also too, we did kind of a polar plunge in this lake.
Yes.
We made it to this little point. We brought our swimsuits, which was a nice little perk. But we plunged in and I popped right back out. It was very cold.
That water was frigid. Frigid.
It wasn't frozen, but it might as well have been.
Yeah.
So just obviously if you're doing that, just be careful. Hypothermia is a thing, but also it does feel really good.
It is. It's crazy refreshing when you're done, actually. It feels worth it. And then the other trail you were going to mention was the Grinnell Glacier Trail.
Grinnell Glacier.
Number 1 trail we've ever hiked.
Yeah. We talked about this in our top 7 hikes podcast episode. But Grinnell Glacier is also one of the most iconic hikes in Glacier. I can't remember. Was it 12 miles?
No. I think it was closer to 10. I wish I had that in front of me.
Yeah.
I think it's closer to 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it starts at Swift Current Lake.
Yeah.
I think is where the trailhead is. And takes you up through like 3 or 4 different lakes. I think it's Swift Current and then Lake Josephine. Is Cracker Lake in there?
No, it's Grinnell Lake.
Grinnell Lake, okay.
And then Upper Grinnell Lake.
Grinnell, yeah.
Which is where the glacier is.
So each of these lakes, like as you're walking or hiking up, there's different scenery, different wildlife that's in there, and they're all different colors. It's just so beautiful. So the water features alone were cool, but then that was where we saw the bighorn sheep. We saw a grizzly bear at a distance, which was nice.
And her 2 cubs.
And the 2 cubs, that's right. And we saw...
You took some amazing photos of wildflowers up there.
Yeah.
I mean, again, this hike was the perfect encapsulation of the glacier because it had everything. It exposed you to every environment, all the things that make the park special, all in one hike. Yeah.
And then obviously the glacier at the top. How could we forget that? Of course. Yeah. So the glacier at the top is obviously what you're hiking to, Grinnell Glacier, which essentially is just this big glacier it was the Upper Grinnell Lake. It's kind of like nested on top of it, kind of.
You can't really see it until you get up to the lake.
Yes.
It hides from your point of view if you're down below. Yes.
Yeah. And the scale of it too was it just trippy. Like looking at it at first when we got up there, I was like, it's really not that big. But then you kind of squint a little and you see little people walking over there and it's like, oh my gosh, they're tiny little ants. So this glacier is huge.
Massive. It's a huge ice sheet. And yeah, it probably was 3-4 stories tall or something like that.
Yeah.
And we got to see the people standing next to it.
It's also really sad to see like climate change being an issue. They had, I don't know if it was up at the top or down at the visitor center, but they had like pictures of this glacier over the years of like the size and scale of it. And it has gotten much smaller.
It has receded significantly.
The years.
And so many of the glaciers, well, almost all of them in the park are shrinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's 26, I think, glaciers left right now. There used to be many more, but they're all getting smaller, sadly. Some years they get bigger, but generally speaking, the trend line is pointing down because of a warming planet. But that's what we deal with.
Yep.
Anyway.
So other activities to do while we're in Glacier besides hiking.
Yeah, besides hiking, besides the scenic drives, which we've mentioned the best of them, whitewater rafting. We didn't get to do it, but it is magnificent there. The Flathead River, the middle fork of the Flathead River. Whitewater rafting. I mean, if you know the movie River Wild with Meryl Streep, they filmed it on this river. I mean, it's some of the greatest whitewater in Montana. So definitely prioritize that. Biking, whether it's human-powered bike or an e-bike, you can do that. You can actually do that a lot earlier in the season as well, on going to the Sun Road. While they're still working to open the road to vehicles, it's open for bikers. So that's a cool thing if you do want to visit early in the season. Bike going to the Sun Road if you're brave, or maybe on an e-bike. But yeah, what else is there?
Yeah, horseback riding, I guess, is a thing. We didn't do that either, but
it'd be pretty special if we did in this like
Yeah,
in
the
this landscape.
mountainscapes.
Can you
Yeah,
imagine?
for sure. There's also a lot of boating tours. I know we saw a couple on our hike up to Grinnell. So they have these little, they're kind of like taxi boats
Yeah.
that take you from one side of the lake to the other. It shaves off some of your hike if you're not interested in doing the entire hike. You can take, I think Lake Josephine has one, and then I think Swift Current has one too. You have to get
Correct.
reservations for those, but that's a great way to kind of immerse yourself in the place and be able to kind of like look around as you're crossing the river or the lake. Sorry.
Yeah.
But then I think there's other boat tours too that they do.
There are. Yeah, on Lake McDonald, which is on the west side, on St. Mary Lake, which is a little further east, and then on Two Medicine Lake.
Okay.
All the same things. Yeah, they have boat tours on all of them. And again, I think that's a neat way. Getting out on the water is a neat way to immerse yourself. We always feel closer to our environment, like closer to the destination we're in when we get on the water.
Yeah.
You know, whether we're in it or on a boat, but
Right.
yeah.
On the tour topic,
Yeah.
there is also something that's very iconic in Glacier, but the red bus tours.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
these are, I don't know what year these cars are like styled after, but they're supposed to be these like older style buses with big like silver grill in the front, but they're iconically red buses, and they have kind of an open top. We saw these a lot when we were at the what was the lodge that we went to by
Mini Glacier Hotel.
Mini Glacier Hotel. Thank you. That was one of the stops where they pick people up. But that takes you all the way up, going to the Sun Road and potentially back, I think.
Yeah.
Depends on how you set your tour up. But this is also a really great way if you're kind of scared to drive that road because it's a little precarious, as I mentioned.
Yeah.
These tour buses, these guides do this all the time. And it's a great way for you just to be able to look out at the beautiful views that you're driving through.
Yeah,
So,
if you're the driver in a vehicle, I mean, you really need to pay attention to driving that road, and you may not enjoy it as much as your passengers. So book a tour on one of the red. I think they call them red jammers. I think I saw that name thrown around. But yeah, the little red buses. Book a tour there and just be a spectator. Yeah.
Another thing on the water, kayaking and paddleboarding. We saw a lot of this. Our friend actually, she was on her
She
paddleboard
paddleboarded.
on Swift Current Lake. It was beautiful. I kind of just was hiking around, just kind of watching her, and I just like kept taking pictures. I'm like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And
It's hard to think about a more beautiful place to paddleboard than one of the lakes in Glacier.
yeah,
Yeah.
it seemed just so peaceful. There was no one else on the water except for her, which was great.
It's pretty neat.
Yeah. Iconic.
Yeah,
experience.
there's also just to sum up the outdoor activities you can do. Stargazing is big here. I mean, imagine that high up, not close to any light pollution. Pretty excellent to go stargazing there. They do have programs actually, but we didn't partake in that. And then backpacking. I want to mention backpacking. Normally, not a very small subset of the population goes backpacking, which is wilderness camping. You bring everything with you on your back that you need to survive outside for multiple days at a time. Glacier has to be one of the most scenic locations to do it, and there are some very, very popular backpacking routes developed. Backcountry campsites that are designated for camping. So that's something cool to think about in Glacier as well, if you really want to immerse yourself. So just bring bear spray.
I was just going to say, if you're in a tent, obviously keeping food outside of your tent and up, like follow all the rules for wildlife avoidance because they will attack your tent. Anyway, just be careful with, the bears are very active.
They are. Yeah, and they're smart. So one last thing before we hop into planning specifics, I do want to talk about the weather. We talked about how short the peak season is here. They get a pretty decent amount of rain in Glacier, whether it's liquid rain or frozen in the form of snow. I mean, there's a lot of precipitation that happens here. The higher elevation mountain peaks get something like 100+ inches of precipitation a year. So think about the short season that all that water needs to melt in, which means there's just constantly waterfalls almost all the way through the year. Something is melting, so creating waterfalls. It doesn't typically get super hot, but it does get cold. As we know, even there in August, it got cold. I mean, overnight and early mornings, it's very chilly. I mean, you could experience 4 seasons of weather in a single day in Glacier. So I had a client there actually go in late June, and as they were driving up going to the Sun Road, at the very top, at the Continental Divide near Logan Pass, got stuck in a snow squall. I mean, a whiteout. They couldn't drive. They needed to pull over, park their car, and wait because visibility was so poor. They got stuck in a blizzard at the end of June. I mean, think about that. So anyway, Glacier will also throw some unexpected weather at you. Yeah. All right, you want to get into the planning specifics?
Yeah, let's do it.
See if we can help people out by some planning logistics. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess let's start with lodging. Like, where would you recommend staying if you're going to Glacier?
Yeah, there's a couple options. I mean, you can stay in gateway towns, which we like to do from time to time. They tend to have better infrastructure built up by way of hotels, by way of restaurants. But inside the park, Glacier actually has a pretty nice array of national park lodges and hotels, one of which, the Mini Glacier Hotel, we really loved. We didn't stay there. We walked through it, though. I mean, what did it feel like when you were in that
so
hotel?
it is a like Swiss style or Swiss themed chalet like style building. It's very pretty with like the mountainscape in the background. It kind of feels like you're in Switzerland almost.
It totally does.
But it's kind of got that like Tudor white brown like contrast Tudor vibes. But like even just walking through it as a non-resident, like the main areas in the lobby, they're a little dated. It's kind of got like an old school vibe to it, but it kind of felt charming in a way.
Yeah.
And there was a little coffee shop and a market downstairs and like a little like souvenir shop we walked through. Might have been where I got my sweatshirt.
That's right.
But if you walk out the back side of this hotel, you're literally like standing at Swift Current Lake. And that's where that boat tour takes you across Swift Current Lake to the other side to the Grinnell Glacier Trail. If you wanted to do that, it leaves like right outside the hotel. But there's kind of like a hiking path along the way. There's some tables you can kind of sit at and have your breakfast and eat. It can be a little crowded. People taking lots of pictures but it's so charming, so charming.
Yeah.
It's one of our favorite places. We actually, this is one of those core memories for me. When we got back from, I think it was the Appoquinee Falls hike that we did. We came back, we got some Huckleberry beer from that little market that I was telling you about in the bottom of the hotel, and some like cheese and crackers, like hikers charcuterie style thing. And we just threw a blanket down right outside the hotel, like up on the hill by the parking lot, and just had a beer, had our little cheese and cracker platter, and just
enjoyed the epic view.
Laid and watched this beautiful landscape. It was so cool. It kind of started to rain a little bit too, which that's not part of the core memory, but it was very, very fun. Very.
Yeah. And I think that those moments are so special. And I don't think we really would have gotten that had we not been staying in the Mini Glacier area. So that's, I think, a key recommendation. When you go to Glacier, do not miss that sector of the park. Mini Glacier, I think, is probably the most scenic area of Glacier National Park. It certainly has the best access to epic trails, but it's hard to get to. I mean, if you're not staying at the Mini Glacier Hotel, at the Swift Current Motor Inn, or at the campground, which is where we were, it's really hard to make a day trip into Mini Glacier because of how far away, how it's really tucked in the northeastern section of the national park. So that's a big recommendation. See if you can secure lodging at one of those 3 places. Otherwise, the other areas of the park definitely do have better options regarding lodging. So like the west side, West Glacier, as it's referred to, is definitely the most popular entrance to the park. It has the best access to all the things we mentioned, places to stay, places to eat, places to shop. Most of the outfitters are located there, people that will rent you bikes and paddle boards and kayaks. They have, I think, something like 4 lodges inside the gates of the park there at the west entrance near Apgar and Lake McDonald. but then dozens and dozens of other privately owned lodges on the outside of the park as well. So plenty of places to stay there. However, it's important to note that that area of the park is where you need a timed entry reservation, which we've mentioned this, I think, in the Yosemite, when we've tossed around the Yosemite episodes. That's a very important consideration that could make or break your trip. Knowing that you need to reserve a spot just to drive into the park during a certain window of time. West Glacier is where you need one of those. In fact, Mini Glacier is another one if you don't already have existing lodging there. So that's something that can be a little bit daunting, a little bit complex, but we take care of that for you if you handle a trip through Trip Possible. We lay out all the instructions. If you buy a guidebook, it's all included in there. But you need to know about it. That's one thing you cannot forget about when you plan a trip to Glacier, the timed entry reservations. So, yeah.
How long do you think a stay in Glacier would be? Or what would you recommend?
I would say if you're trying to do some more exploring on foot or do some excursions, like take a boat tour, horseback ride, you could do a week in Glacier and not get bored. I mean, you would be happy that you spent that much time there. You'd feel very immersed with that kind of time commitment. However, if you're not a hiker, if you're physically limited for whatever reason and you just want to hit the scenic drives and maybe take one tour like a boat ride, you could do Glacier in a day or two. I mean, probably at least one overnight and then maybe two. Yeah, so it is a park that you can see in a lot of different ways, thanks to going to the Sun Road, which is just so spectacular. Yeah, that's a good question. But yeah. Oh, one more thing I want to mention about lodging as people are planning their trips: campgrounds. We did this in the Mini Glacier area, but I think a lot of people immediately look when they're researching lodging for a national park, they immediately look past campgrounds as an option. More so than in any other park, though, I think we would encourage people to consider camping in Glacier National Park because they have 13 developed front country drive up campgrounds that you can drive to. All of them are beautiful and all of them are inside the gates of the park and grant you wonderful access to some areas that might otherwise be really difficult to get to. And you're waking up in those areas. And if you have a campground reservation, you're exempted from needing to get a timed entry reservation in most cases. So that's a little bit of a shortcut. Takes care of your lodging and it takes care of the stressful process of getting a permit to drive in. So I don't know. We did that and had a magnificent time camping in the Mini Glacier campground.
Yeah, we brought our own. It wasn't really ours. It was our friends, but we stayed with them in their camper. But you can rent RVs or campers or things like that.
Yes.
I know you've helped a lot of people organize that and plan that as well.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So that is an option.
Yeah. If you're driving in, this is kind of a segue to the next topic, but if you are driving in, yes, you can drive an RV that you've rented from a company like Cruise America. Road Bear is another one we like a lot, or drive your personal vehicle. But if you're flying, Glacier is a little bit difficult to get to. There's probably no major airport that requires that gives you direct flights near Glacier, unless you live near Dallas or Denver or something like that. I mean, you're probably stuck flying into Kalispell Airport, which is about an hour away from the gates of the park. But I think from there, it's wise to rent a car. And because I just think that enhances your visit and puts you more in control of your time. The park does have a shuttle system, but it's really more meant for hikers that are trying to connect point to point hikes back to where they park their car. The shuttle system in Glacier is not great, in my opinion. So we think it's wise to fly if you need to and then rent a car from there.
Yeah. And to that point, too, if you're going to be driving, going to the Sun Road, parking up at Logan Pass, which is one of the visitor centers on going to the Sun Road, it fills up very quickly, like 6 a.m. quickly.
Yeah.
People that are trying to get into the park before the reservations start, So if that does happen, and you can't get a parking spot for what you're there for, if you wanted to do like the Highline Trail or something, or go to the visitor center up there, you could finish driving the road and then take the shuttle back, like at the hiker shuttle, like you
Yes.
mentioned, back to Logan Pass, because it stops at that visitor
That's
center.
great advice.
So it's another way to, if you're stressed out about not finding a parking spot, which is an issue up there, you can always take that shuttle back up.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that's definitely the way to do it. And the hiking again is worth it. Some of the longer, more challenging hikes have the better views, have better scenery, but yeah, the parking is such an issue. So, the gateway towns, we mentioned that earlier. Let's talk about some of those. So on the west side of the park, the very popular side of the park, the closest town, I would call it like a little outpost town, is West Glacier. We stopped there a couple times at little shops and got some ice cream in West Glacier. It's a really cute little area. But then as you go further west on Highway 2, you run into towns like Columbia Falls and Coram and Hungry Horse, which are all very small but have a little bit of infrastructure, some choices regarding lodging and restaurants. A lot of Airbnbs and Verbos, a lot of rental homes to choose from, which are nice. But no, those towns, they don't really have a lot of character, I would say. They're not large enough to really have a walkable downtown area. That's what you get when you go further west to the towns of Whitefish and Kalispell. Whitefish, we didn't make it in there, but apparently very charming, very cute. Quite bustling in the summertime. There's lots of neat events, excellent places to eat, live music to enjoy. So that'd be a neat place if you want to blend your trip to Glacier. If you are staying there for a week, have a couple nights in Whitefish. I think that'd be kind of neat to also experience some of the local culture there as well. So that'd be neat. Yeah. And then on the east side, it's a lot quieter. That's where the Blackfeet Indian Reservation is. But between that and the park, there are two towns called St. Mary and East Glacier Park, both of which have a smattering of motel options and a couple Airbnbs to choose from. But that is definitely the least popular side of the park, which is why you don't need an entrance reservation to come in going to the Sun Road from that direction. Only if you approach from the west. So yeah, those are the gateway towns in Glacier. There's a lot of charm to be had. And our recommendation, this is what we did on our trip, was stay a couple nights on each side. Have 3 nights in Many Glacier and 3 nights in West Glacier, or 2 nights in Two Medicine and 3 nights in Whitefish, or something like that, as a way to minimize the amount of backtracking you need to do, because it's very real. I mean, it takes a long time to drive through this park because of the traffic, because you can't go very fast because the roads are windy, and because you're going to want to stop and see cool stuff. So that's a big recommendation that we like to mention.
Is the only road connecting the west to the east just going to the Sun Road?
That's the only road through the park, yes.
Okay.
U.S. Highway 2 kind of swoops down around the park and cuts through the mountains that way.
Okay.
But then that actually is the faster route in a lot of cases to take. It takes less time. It's more mileage, but you can go faster because it's a highway. And it's also quite beautiful, actually. We drove that.
Yeah.
Very beautiful road. So if it's dark and it doesn't matter how you get from point A to point B, take Highway 2 instead of going to the Sun Road. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So then we talked about the timed entry reservations needed at the west entrance of going to the Sun Road in Many Glacier. Those are also needed in the North Fork area, but that's a rarely used area of the park where backpackers like to start their wilderness trips. Why don't you tell me what your number one tip is when you are thinking about visiting Glacier?
Yeah. I would say it has to be getting a head start and getting in early. I know we had a park reservation, I think for like 7 a.m., wasn't it? Mm-hmm. And we got to the gates and there was still a line to get in.
Yeah.
So try and get in as early as you can to avoid a lot of the traffic, the backup, even just like parking lot areas that get full really quickly. As I mentioned, Logan Pass fills up very quickly. That's up at the top of going to the Sun, or up through going to the Sun Road. And isn't that where the Continental Divide is?
Yeah, it
Pass?
is.
Yeah. So just get a head start. Don't do a big leisurely breakfast if you can help it, if you're actually trying to get into the park and get going, because that'll slow you down and then you'll have traffic and stuff to deal with.
Yeah. Get up early. I mean, I feel like that's the number one tip in every national park that we talk about, but it's so true in Glacier.
Yeah.
100%.
The other thing too is planning for all types of weather. So wear layers. Layers are super important. One, because it can be very cold in the morning, but then the sun comes out and it gets warmer. Also, like elevation changes. So if you're starting at, lower elevation, it could be a little bit warmer, but as you're climbing up into these mountain tops, it's colder. If they're on like exposed cliff edges, there's some breeze, wind. So having layers is super important. We actually, for the Grinnell hike, Grinnell Glacier, we started out in, I think, long sleeves. We got hot, took those off. But then once we got up to the glacier, we got cold again. So we put it back on.
Wasn't it crazy when we, hiking uphill for, 5 miles to get to that lake, you work up a sweat. Like you're like an oven on the inside. So we're taking off layers. But then when we get to Upper Grinnell Lake, we see the glacier, we see the literal icebergs in that lake.
Yep.
I felt like there was a refrigerator effect. I feel like it got cold up at the top.
It was very cold.
I mean, I don't think it was just because we stopped hiking. It was noticeably colder. And I think it was just all that ice.
Yeah. So wear layers. Definitely be prepared. Yeah. And I think you mentioned earlier all the rain, like have rain gear, like raincoats, or if you have big hiking backpacks, there's little rain flies for those that you can bring just to cover your gear so everything doesn't get wet.
Yeah, and it rains significantly more at higher elevations because of the effect that temperature has on clouds that hold moisture. So it may be a bluebird beautiful day down at the Many Glacier Hotel or down at Lake McDonald. But then once you get onto your hike and you're going a little bit higher up into the mountains, that's when the precipitation may come, because that's how weather works there. So that's a great point.
And then the last tip would be get your lodging as far in advance as possible. I know you help a lot of people book their stuff, but stuff fills up very quickly. And I think too, like we actually had a reservation at a different campground in Many Glacier. And we checked a couple weeks before we left, and we checked again and again and again. And one of the spots inside the park opened up for the days that we were there, and we snagged it. And it was like best thing ever. I'm so glad that our friends were able to do that, because we were so much closer to everything that we wanted to do.
Yeah. That's so clutch. I'm glad you mentioned it, because that was the last thing I wanted to remind people of is when you reserve your lodging, which you should do well in advance, try to prioritize it inside the park, because not only are you closer to all the activities that you're going to want to do, but you do exempt yourself from needing a timed entry reservation. It's hard to understate how tricky and how stressful that it can be to obtain those. It's done with good intention. The National Park Service understands that there's a crowd problem at Glacier, so they implement the reservation system. It works. Crowds are reduced, or at least they're throttled a little bit, they're controlled. But the process of getting those really does stress people out. I mean, God forbid you plan this massive trip, you take time off work, you fly out there, you drag your family with you, and then you don't have an entry reservation to get into the park. Like that is the ultimate bad move.
Yeah.
So figure out ways either to pounce on the entry reservations right when they release, or call us, because we have done it many, many times in the past. Or just try to secure some lodging inside the park to where you don't even need a timed entry reservation, and you're closer to the things you want to do that day. It's more immersive that way anyway. So definitely.
If you go the custom planning route with Trip Possible, we do that all for you. So we will help figure out where your lodging needs to be. We can help you book it and help you get those timed entry reservations if that is required for your trip too.
Yeah,
so.
definitely. Anything to avoid when we are planning a trip to Glacier?
Obviously, wildlife is very rampant there. Avoid the wildlife. I mean, you can see it, look at it from a safe distance, but a lot of people can get into trouble trying to get close and like get their shot and like Instagram photos, whatever.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like horror stories of people getting really hurt. So just leave the wildlife alone. It's beautiful. Like, respect it. I would say avoid getting too close to wildlife.
For sure. Yeah, I would say besides Yellowstone, where it's impossible not to see the wildlife, Glacier is the park where we've seen the most amount of large animals in any other park. It's Glacier. I mean, on the exact same trail, we stood very close to a bighorn sheep. And we felt like we could not proceed past that trail. And on that same trail, on the way back down that trail, we saw the grizzly bear mama and her cubs. Luckily, we were perched on the trail on a cliff. They were down below. We were not in danger. But you're totally right. I mean, some people were walking past that bighorn sheep way too close for comfort. Yep. I mean, you could see it getting irritated and scared that humans were so close. Yep. I mean, and you see a bighorn sheep, it's not like a farm sheep. These things are rams. They're massive, muscular animals that can ram you off a mountain. So don't touch the wildlife.
Yes.
Totally agree with you.
To that point, too, we mentioned bear spray, but if you're flying in, obviously you can't fly with bear spray. Right. So you can buy bear spray. Any of the places, I'm assuming like the grocery stores or like convenience shops probably sell it. But keep it accessible. So like have it in like the water bottle pouch of your backpack or on like a little holster or something. Because it's not something that you're going to have time to like take your backpack off and unzip and dig for it. Like it might be too late at that point.
Correct.
So keep it accessible.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely. Carry bear spray. That's a great point. One thing I would avoid in Glacier, avoid staying in only one place. We mentioned it already, but I just want to reiterate it. Don't only stay in one hotel or one lodge for the whole duration of your trip. Try to move around. Stay in a different area of the park and make it easier for yourself to smartly craft an itinerary that reduces the 2 or 3 hours you need to backtrack. It extends your trip. It enhances your stay. So do that. Yeah.
Great.
And then last thing, I would avoid, I don't know how you feel about this. I say I would avoid late May or up all the way almost until mid-June. I know if you really dislike crowds, fine, you can go during that time of year. But I just think that what makes Glacier so special is going to the Sun Road. And it does not open rarely until like late June, early July. So I would say don't plan your trip until you kind of know that going to the Sun Road may be open. Mm-hmm. And if you really don't have a choice, then bake in lots of other options on how to go and see the park. You know, rent a bike, book a boat tour, go see Mini Glacier instead because it opens earlier. So do those things is what I would say.
Great. All righty.
Our favorite national park.
Glacier.
Yeah. If you do want any of this advice, any of these nice tips and recommendations, a trip pre-planned for you, give us a shout. www.mytrippossible.com. We can arrange comprehensive travel planning for a trip to Glacier. But if you need something a little more budget friendly, the Glacier Guidebook is for sale on our online shop. Go check it out. And one last reminder, please subscribe. Please leave a comment about which park you want us to talk about next time on our next episode. And until then, thanks for joining.
See you next time.
Bye.